Serious. What is the scariest experience you have gone through? Story 1. Attention! Serious tag. Notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit, message compose, or ask Reddit if you have any questions or concerns. Story 2. My husband calling me to tell me his brother eliminated his parents, and that I needed to get the dogs and myself out of the house immediately in case his brother was on his way to our house. I was incredibly fortunate that a neighbor let me hide the dogs in her garage and come in until my husband gave me the all clear to go home. Story 3. It's happening right now. My wife is in the ICU with pneumonia on top of a year-long battle with cancer. Sedated, on a ventilator, and barely clinging to life, her heart could just give out at any time, and that's it. I'm literally sitting in her room all night, fully expecting to lose her sometime tonight or in the next couple days. I've been through some scary moments in my life, but in a completely different way. This is by far the scariest night of my life. Edit. I just want to say thank you to all of you for the sweet, thoughtful comments. If I didn't respond to you specifically, please don't take it personally. I only have so much to give of myself right now. Answer. This comment literally breaks my heart. I was in a very similar situation during the summer, only I wasn't allowed into the hospital. COVID regulations. In my case, it was my husband. Luckily, he pulled through after several months. I can only imagine your pain and stress, and I absolutely pray and will and wish you all the strength that you're going to need to get through this. I don't know you, you don't know me, but as one stranger to another, you and your wife are in my thoughts. I'm so very sorry you're going through this, X. Story 4. Was doing some mineral exploration work up in Alaska this summer in a very remote mountain range. I was working at a drill site where a grizzly had been spotted at the rig earlier that day, and I was naturally a little on edge. I was laying out some wires through very thick brush, couldn't see through it at all, and all of a sudden I hear a really large animal close by, and I smelled the typical wet dog bear smell. Before I had time to react, the wire gets ripped out of my hands and dragged into the brush at probably 20 matoam. I'm freaking out trying to reach my gun, and this massive bull caribou just pops his head out and looks me over, then walks away. Lol. Answer. So not the same topic, but similar. I was visiting in Cali, and I went for a hike with a buddy of mine. Totally off the beaten path. No one knew exactly where we are, and we are hiking up a super steep, treeless hill. Suddenly, a massive fudge black bear pops out of the woods, maybe 60 ft from my friend and 70 ft from me. I was below him. It was surprised and ran off, but holy shoot, when I saw it did, I think I was about to witness my friend get mauled. Not saying I just stood there, though. I ran over to him with bear spray out and making noise, making myself look big. Story 5. My mom was in ICU for a month when I was 18. She'd come out of ICU and been moved to a regular room, and she seemed to be getting better. I had a scholarship to college, and she told me to go. I did, and I didn't want to go. This was my one shot, you know. But I wanted to stay and be there for her, but she told me to go, so I did. Second day of classes, I got a call at 5 a.m. She'd arrested. She had no living will, so they brought her back, and she was on life support but had no brain activity. I had to sign the papers to turn off the machines. I was 18 and she was my only family. I'm 51 now and I'm tearing up as I write this. I eliminate my mother. Yes, I know, brain dead. They did scans, the neurologist advised me. I've had counseling. But at the end of the day, I signed papers. They turned off machines, and my mother died. And then I was alone. Make a living will. Don't ever put your children or spouse through what I went through. Answer. I'm so sorry you lost her in such a traumatic way. She sounds like a really great mom. She wanted you to go get your education and was worried about you and your future, even while she was so sick. I work in an ICU, and so many people don't have a living will, advance directives, and have never even spoken about their wishes with their family should the worst happen. It's heartbreaking watching family members have to choose for their person. They are tortured over making the right decision. I always tell my families that, and that as long as they are coming from a place of love and respect for their loved one, that whatever choice they make will be a good one. Their loved one's body has done the best it can, and life support machines and medication let us prolong life, but often at the expense of quality of life. I'm sorry you were left so alone to ultimately decide where to draw the line between the two at such a young age. I wish you the best in your continued journey to find peace with your mother's loss. Story 6. Got a couple knives pulled on me one night while working at a pizza shop. Had a little Mexican standoff. First time experiencing the thought, I might have to stab this dude or be stabbed. Luckily, our pizza knives were bigger, and with my coworker backing me up, the two dudes both left. I owe my life to my coworker from that night. Dude had my back. Answer. Money isn't worth it, especially someone else's. I worked at a pizza joint doing deliveries. One guy I worked with was an older guy that was honestly just a decent person. Lots of people there were scheming bastards, and Jerry was a good guy. Some 13-year-old eliminate him with a hatchet while trying to rob the place. Not that I knew Jerry well, but I have a feeling he tried to stop the kid from robbing the place and/or got between the HID and other staff. That's the kind of guy Jerry was. Story 7. I got caught in a rock slide and fell off a cliff while backpacking. Early spring, things were starting to melt. We were hiking on a ridge and looking for a way down the side, maybe a 60-70-degree loose scree slope, to a stream about 500 feet below. I was in the lead, heading down at an angle. Rocks kicked out from under my feet, and I fell backwards onto my butt. All of a sudden, the entire slope around me began to move en masse, like an island of broken-up rocks with me sitting in the middle. I rode it down the hill, bouncing off stuff and trying to stop myself and dig in, but no luck, just picking up speed. At the bottom, the hill dropped off to a 40 ft cliff, and I was launched off with the slide. I landed in a pile of debris and loose stuff that previously came down, including a lot of loose snow, which mostly absorbed the energy. I was mostly okay, muddy, lots of scratches and bruises, a separated shoulder and broken tailbone, but I was able to walk out. My one memory is being in mid-air, time standing still, and looking to my left at a stove-sized boulder, likewise suspended in the air, about 6 feet away. Any good-sized rock would have eliminated me. Answer. I remember when I broke my arm, time seemed to stand still. I was skateboarding down a road and went too fast, so I had to jump to get off. I flew forward, and when my arm hit the ground, everything stopped. I even remember thinking to myself, ooh yeah, this one's broken. I also kind of saw my arm like an X-ray and thought about how it broke. All of that in one moment, some crazy shoot. Story 8. When I was a teenager, I had an irregular heart rhythm and required a medication called adenosine. Adenosine is usually given via infusion just once or twice. in hospital under careful monitoring, and the side effects include an impending sense of doom. This side effect relates to your heartbeat temporarily stopping. This fires signals to your brain telling you it's time to panic or you've reached the end. Impending sense of doom doesn't begin to describe it. I was told in advance, but nothing prepares you for it. I went from sitting on the hospital bed, just finished a sandwich and thinking about my Year 11 exam, to suddenly being certain that I was going to die here. I've never felt so sure of anything. I couldn't move or speak, and my mind suddenly raced very fast to the extent I couldn't keep up with my own thoughts. It was similar to what you hear about your life flashing before your eyes. My brain was drowning and telling me to find more oxygen, even though I was breathing fine. I was suddenly sure this was a nightmare, that this hospital was fake, and all the doctors and nurses were actors, and I was poisoned. Then it was over in seconds. I haven't had a single heart problem since. Answer: so far, this story has made me feel the most dread. I suffer from extreme social anxiety, topped with a hefty dose of general anxiety and sprinkle in some ADHD and depression. It's a shoot show. I have panic attacks so badly here and there that I really feel like I might actually be dying. You'd think I would get used to it, but I never do. Anyways, I figure the feeling you described here is way worse than my worst panic attack and feelings of doom, and it made me almost nauseous to think about. Man, I'm sorry you had to go through that. So scary. Story 9. Work in a mental health unit. Only 2 staff on nights. Other staff went to lay down for a few minutes as she was doing a double. Had my back turned for about 15 seconds, and a very sick man, newly diagnosed with schizophrenia, came behind me and got me in a chokehold. One of the scariest positions to be in. Even in our self-defense training, our trainers pretty much said, if someone gets you from behind in a hold, do whatever the fudge you need to do to live. I'm a pretty small human, so I really couldn't move despite flailing like a MF. He had my arms between his legs, so I couldn't reach for my panic alarm. Whole time he was singing Tiny Dancer into my ear. Thank whatever higher power is up there, another patient had woken up for some Tylenol. I was seeing stars at this point, could feel my eyes bursting out of my head. I just remember thinking this is how I was going to die and thinking about who would take care of my dog, and then everything went black. Woke up on a medical unit. I guess he'd pointed to a sign last second behind our nursing desk that instructs how to call a code white, violent patient, and the patient who woke up did it successfully and kicked the guy holding me in the face to get him off me before security came. Pretty fudge up. Still see the PT that saved me on the unit every once in a while. Always buy him some chocolate bars and coffee when he's here. Answer: wow, that's terrifying. I worked in an assisted living and a couple shared a room. I prefer night shifts. Wife had Parkinson's and husband had dementia. They shared a bedroom, but separate beds. Wife called to get assistance to the bathroom. I was kneeling by her bedside, helping get her slipper sock things on, before helping her into her chair to go to the restroom. Only light in the room was from the cracked bathroom door, because I wanted to be considerate of the husband still sleeping. Husband woke up, saw me kneeling by his wife's bedside, freaked out, and beat me with a shoe. Definitely not as scary as yours for sure. I still look back and laugh at how silly the whole scene must have looked. Dude. Whacking me with a sneaker hard enough to rip my hair out of my hair tee. His wife screaming at him to please God stop. And my dumb jerk just ignoring everything trying to get those darn socks on. Wife felt absolutely terrible. Husband apologized profusely the next morning. Apparently, they had an intruder a long time ago, and in his middle of the night, confusion, it sent him back to the night of their home invasion. Story 10. two are tied, being shot when our neighbor's gun accidentally discharged, and the bullet came through the shared wall, severing an electrical line, barely missed my head, glanced off my chest, and landed on the other side of the room. The sheer thought of what could have been if I'd been laying an inch further left is terrifying. Gas pedal getting stuck while driving home from my mom's funeral. I somehow managed to get the car pulled over and turned off, but I was going 85 mph going uphill. If it had got stuck 3 miles earlier, I'd have plunged off a seaside cliff, taking my aunt, cousin, and 9-month-old daughter with me. Answer: I dealt with something similar. I was on my way to my grandmother's, and as I was going around a bend and my gas pedal got stuck. The roads were not very good, and since the pedal was on the floor, I started going fast quick. After a few seconds that felt like an eternity, I was able to RIP off my car's floor mat. The floor mat was holding down the pedal. Now I don't feel safe driving in cars with driver-side floor mats. Story 11. My son had his first seizure while I was driving. He was in the back seat and I heard a noise. I looked in the rearview mirror and he was convulsing with blood running out of his mouth. Then he collapsed. I thought he had died. To this day, I don't know how I was able to get off the freeway, call 911 and check his pulse. He was 7 years seizure-free on November 29, but that one day changed my life forever. Answer: God, as someone who has seizures, I'm so sorry that happened to you, but I'm so glad he's doing better. That stuff is so scary, though. I remember my first seizure. I was 11. I was taking a shower, and then, boom, I was on a stretcher. My mom had heard me seizing in the shower and got me out. She dragged me to the couch before I had another one there. It's horrifying from both sides, and nobody should have to deal with it. Story 12. I was abducted by 3 men. They brought me to a hotel room and threatened me with wrenches and hammers. There was a language barrier, but they said, "You cry, we hit." Proceeded to violation me and dump me on the side of the road. I knew the area and walked home. I then had my friend drive me to the hospital, where they did a violation kit and put me on AIDS preventative medication. As if that wasn't terrifying enough, the worst part was, during the violation they were laughing and telling me, "You like, yes?" Answer: Your story terrified me and I was just curious, so I read through your comments, and you've had such a hard life with really shoot things happening to you at such a young age. Your life story, from what I gathered on Reddit LMAO, reminds me a lot of my stepmom's story. She's been clean 10 years and in her 40s now, but it took a long time for things to get to a healthy environment and our family to sort of heal. I hope you have healed and life has nothing but blessings for you. Sorry if this is a little weird, I just wanted to reach out and wish you the best. Story 13. I suffered from an illness with no name for years. When I got sick, I would piss blood and be violently ill. I didn't have a problem as I was told I was going to grow out of it. Childhood nephritis. So imagine my shock when I hit 19 and feel like I was going to die. I went to the doctor's office to see a GP, and they had closed early for a Christmas party. But I forced them to open the door to deal with me. The GP said, "We need an ambulance now." And I was forced into the ambulance and down to the ER. Whilst in the ER, they took blood and found I was suffering from hyperkalemia, too much potassium in my blood, which was causing my heart rate to hit the 200s. I was on the verge of a stroke heart attack. I was admitted to the hospital and immediately put on substances to lower the levels so I didn't die, but I kept vomiting black bile. I thought, this is it. This is how I die, not doing something heroic or awesome, but in a hospital bed alone, vomiting and wanting nothing more. Then my mom and dad, and honestly, I was scared out of my mind and couldn't stop crying. Apparently, after that, I was put into a medical coma and pumped full of more substances and given emergency dialysis. My kidneys had failed and I was dying of blood poisoning. When I woke up, I had missed my birthday, and it was roughly 2 weeks later. I had a dialysis machine attached to a chest line and a dialysis nurse trying to keep me calm, but I was choking to passing, so I ended up pulling the ventilator out of my mouth, and this long pipe came with it. I started to cough violently and almost vomited, but there was nothing to come out, so I just dry heaved a lot and pulled a lot of muscles. Later, I was told my kidneys had failed. I was lucky to be alive and doubly lucky that I didn't clot and suffer a stroke or a heart attack. I was weak as a newborn and could barely lift my arms after a while and remained in hospital for 3 months, getting rehabilitation because I couldn't speak properly or walk properly. After 6 months, I was basically back to being me, just struggling with this new condition that had basically ruined my life and my plans. Answer: wow, everything you just wrote resonated with me. Your ordeal was so incredibly similar to what my mother went through before passing away. Wow. The bloody urine, the black bile, the blood poisoning, the kidney failure, the dialysis. All so similar. She ended up with end-stage renal failure and was dependent on dialysis to live. She lived 6 years on dialysis, 3 times a week at first, and then every day. Watching her go through all of that starting when I was 14 messed me up so badly. It was so painful and scary to watch my amazing, strong mother get so sick and to almost lose her countless times. Story 14. I was robbed at gunpoint in 2001. I was living outside of Detroit and worked at an ACO Hardware, yes, ACO, not Ace, as a lead cashier. I don't know if they still do this because I don't live in MI anymore, but they used to have these weekly flyers that always had a coupon for some ridiculous deal, like 10 for a box cutter or something else that was a loss leader. It was super common for people to come in just to get their coupon item and nothing else. So it was a super busy Saturday, just after my lunch break, and I just got back on my till. We had lines out to BFE, and so I got into the speed zone, just trying to get people cashed out without being rude. A dude walked up and put his coupon for a pack of light bulbs for $150. Crazy what details stick in the mind, on the conveyor belt, along with 2 singles. I smiled, asked how he was, rung him up, and immediately got the register open as I saw his payment right there. The next thing I knew is he's opening his coat up and pulling a gun on me and hissing at me, "Give me all your money." I shoot you not, the first thought I had was, why does he have that toy gun and why is he pointing it at me? I just stood there staring at him in confusion. This pissed him off and he cocked the pistol. It was a slide action one, again what you remember when, and shoved it closer to me and repeats, "I said give me your fudge money." Then it hit me that it was a real gun and I think I just went into autopilot. I took all the money out of my till and just kind of shoved it toward him, and he gathered it up and booked it out the door. I just stood there and my coworker across the way started calling my name until I finally looked at her with a completely calm face and said, "I think someone just robbed me." Then my legs gave out and I just fell down and couldn't stop shaking. It only hit me then how I could have just died. Later, after the statement and the cops and everything, my coworkers and I surmised that it was a friend of someone who worked there because they knew to hit my till, since I was head cashier, that had the most money in it. Still sometimes see that guy with his gun in nightmares. As far as I know, they never caught him. I don't think hardware store robber was high on their list of priorities. Story 15. When my dad hired 2 guys to get close to me and become friends of mine with a real intention of robbing and eliminate me later on. Story 16. I was put in jail by some corrupt cops saying that my kid wasn't my kid. He put me in there for welfare fraud as I was getting food stamps for us both. I had to spend months in jail as I couldn't afford bond, and I refused to settle, demanding a jury trial as my kid is my kid. This is all while I'm trying to get treatment for a major tumor, which set me back for months. After that, I couldn't afford both the tumor treatment and a place to live, so I was homeless after jail. I'm still feeling the effects from that a decade later. Answer: someone else said sue. This might be a legitimate suggestion. If you can prove that you were falsely imprisoned, bonus points if they knowingly did it, that's step one. Then you need to show damages. How did what they did to you make your life go off the rails, and, most important, what did it cost you? Plaintiff's attorneys work on contingency, so it won't cost you money up front. If an attorney agrees to take your case, they take a percentage of what you end up being owed. Caveat: you didn't say when this happened, so it may have been too long ago to file a lawsuit. I am not a lawyer. Story 17. I have cheated passing 3 times this year. 1. A car accident where a person didn't yield and struck me driver's side. I was airborne for a few seconds and flew over the median into a parking lot and hit a parked car. I walked out minor bruises. Same for other person. 2. At 2 a.m. a couple months.